What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, the author. Right back at that ass again. Here's another one. You gotta know what you're doing. Yeah, yeah. You gotta know what you're doing. Gotta know what you're doing, man. Gotta know what you're doing out here, man. It's your boy, the author, man. I just thought I'd make this video, man. Uh, just wanna, you know, do something different, man. You know what I'm saying? Try to grab your attention. You know what I'm saying? So you won't get too bored. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just like to thank the people who subscribe, man. Who step out. You know what I'm saying? We're a small group, but we're gonna grow, man. We're gonna continue to grow without gimmicks, without buffoonery, without nonsense. Like I said on my site, the real starts here, man. You know. But this video, man, it was hard for me to entitle it. I want to entitle it Black Americans versus the Black Diaspora, but Black Americans are part of the Black Diaspora, the African, or supposedly the African diaspora. Every Black comes from Africa. Nonsense. But well, I was thinking, Black Americans versus uh, Black world, Black Americans versus the Americans in the world, or Black worldly Americans from other places. I don't know, but here's the thing, man. This is the issue. This is what the video is going to primarily be about, regardless of what the title is on. For example, man, growing up, man, and those of you who are over 30 can understand. I don't want to make this just for the older crowd, but people who are over 30 can understand. Who are raised in the inner city. Predominantly, we listen to rap music, right? And some of you will remember, especially if you were in New York State before rap became really popular. Songs like "Self Destruction," "You Had It for Self Destruction," you know, KRS One, Miss Melody, X Clan. You know, a lot of brothers, man, was out there back then. Brand New being one of my favorite rap groups of all time. A lot of these brothers, man, were bigging up Africa, and you know, you had African Bambaataa, who was even a little bit before my time. But a lot of these brothers were bigging up Africa, and you had the Zulu Nation. I believe Tribe Called Quest, which is one of my, you know, favorite groups due to a friend of mine who was a friend in high school, or Tribe Called Quest in the native tongue. And I believe De La Soul was a part of that, if you're into the rap thing. All New York groups. But back then, my point is, man, back then, you had a lot of rap songs during the early 90s and late 80s that were predicated on, you know, having respect for Africa, and the blacks in Africa, and Africa Unite, and everybody came from Africa. All blacks, especially, came from Africa, and the first bones were found in Africa, so on and so forth. Everything was Africa, man. Even in the early 90s, the red, black, and green medallions. Brothers was wearing those, supporting Africa, African this, African that. Brothers was showing mad love to Africa, even though they never been to Africa, you know what I'm saying, or never really met a lot of Africans, even though some were prevalent in New York City. I grew up in Rochester, New York, which they call a quote unquote country, but it's upstate New York. And you don't have as many Africans migrating there, but you did have more in New York City, which is about 8 hours away from Rochester, because New York is such a big state. And then, you know, we didn't get respect too much from New York City, which is, you know, absurd. I don't know why the blacks who grew up in New York City are so proud, because of the police brutality that they go through in New York City is the same as the police brutality that motherfuckers go through in Louisiana, and LA, and Houston, and all over the country, or all over the world, I should say. But I digress. So my point is, brothers, Black Americans, man, was showing mad love to Africans, man. Especially me, because I'm from Rochester, New York, and not many Africans migrated to Rochester, New York, when I was growing up. So I just show a lot of respect for Africa. And I was thinking I didn't know much about Black history, so I was thinking of blacks in Africa who I was thinking we were all from Africa, all the blacks especially, and we were, dropped off different places, and I guess my people were the dumb people who were dumb enough to get caught, and we got dropped off into America, and the blacks who didn't get caught in Africa were the smarter Africans. So we big up to Africa, and one day we'll all go back to Africa and live happily ever after. Then I got to college and end up going to Stony Brook University, and for the first time actually ended up meeting some Africans for the first time and talking with Africans, only to find out how they are really assholes for the most part. First and foremost, what I didn't know is that most of them that are over here don't even like Americans. And I think one comic was talking about that, man. One brother who passed away, I forget his name, but he made a comedy skit on that, man. He was talking about blacks, talking about Africa. He was like, first and foremost, most Africans can't stand African Americans. Well, this brother wasn't far from the truth, man. These brothers was talking. I couldn't believe the shit they was talking about how it is, how they have it so hard in Africa, and how most of the brothers over here, the reason why they're getting their ass kicked by police is because most of them deserve it, and because they're doing wrong shit. Like I'm like, I can talk to the whites in America and not hear this Uncle Tom coon shit. I mean, you think we got some coons on YouTube? You talk to the average African. I was like, what the fuck? You guys are really out of touch. And then you had Diallo in New York City in 1999, who I think he was from New York City. Not sure what borough. I think it was the Bronx where that cop shoved that nightstick up his ass. And he was from Africa. And he finally found out, like, yeah, it's real over in America too, just like in Africa. You dumb motherfuckers. But to make a long story short, man, I just came across this video because I noticed that a lot of Africans that I met and talked with personally, and a lot of blacks that are from the islands like Jamaica and Trinidad, same color as me now, Jamaica, Trinidad, and all those islands, often when they talk to a black American, they think that they're better than a black American and that they're smarter. Yeah. That's what I've gotten from a lot of them. Now, some of you may not have had the same experience, but I had, and I met another when I was working in Albany. I had this other guy. I think now this African I just talked about. He was from Africa, from Suffolk. I'm sorry. When I was going to Long Island University, it was in not Long Island University. I was going to Stony Brook University, and it was in Long Island, and Long Island is located on Suffolk County because Long Island is broke up into two counties, Nassau and Suffolk. So they have a lot. And that university has a lot of foreigners. It's like considered a worldwide university. So I went there for one semester and talked with this fool. Now this other West Indian or whatever, I think he was from either Jamaica or somewhere else. I worked in Albany and I talked with him. And he was talking about how smart Jamaicans are and how it was this one criminal that they couldn't catch because he was so smart and they know multiple languages. And I met another islander too when I was doing the what do we have? We had the teaching, but we had what do you call it? It's like not an urban league. I don't know if all of you know what I'm talking about, but there is some colleges have this. There's a program where for inner city youth or blacks who come into the college with a disadvantage, I believe it was called an EOP program. They'll have advisors for them to come in during the summer to try to prep up. I believe most of them are incoming freshmen, and they come from low-income environments. And if they qualify for, I believe it's called the EOP program, then they can get tutoring, and they can get tutoring before they start their freshman year. And I was one of those tutors, me and three other people. It was me. The other black was from the islands. He was a male, and then we had an Asian girl, and I think we had one more person. I forget if it was a white person or an Asian person, but yeah, and they didn't even want to pick me for that, even though I was in grad school. But anyway, I did get a position, and I did talk to a few more islanders. This one guy, I think he was from, one of the students was from Africa, and this other guy was from the islands, and he was talking about, he was trying to talk, what do you call it? Some of them know multiple languages. So in front of his friend, he was speaking French. And of course, I'm black from America, so I only know one language. And he was speaking French to his friend, and his friend was speaking French back to him when I was in the car with him. And he looked at me and said, "No offense, we're sorry." And I'm like, "None taken." But it amazes me why a lot of people from the islands think that they're so smart, and they base that on the premise that they're smart because they know multiple languages. First of all, most of you from the islands, from Jamaica and Trinidad and those other islands, and even Africa, if you really knew why you know two different languages, you may be embarrassed. Because first of all, most of you didn't learn that second language through Rosetta Stone or through a program. No. See, what happened to Africa is that the Europeans took over Africa. Germany, England, the Dutch, a lot of those French, a lot of those English countries took over Africa, and they carved it up. Okay, they took over the whole goddamn continent. Some of your African countries are still paying tax tariffs to France. About 18 African countries are still paying tax tariffs to France. So a lot of them think that they ran the whites out. You didn't. They took everything and decided to leave because they raped the continent. Let me say that again. About 18 countries are still paying tariffs. So what happened was all of those European countries took over Africa and the islands, took it over. Because it's funny how I used to work at Tiffany's. Now, peep this. Most of the diamonds, those rocks, sell for thousands of dollars in Tiffany's. Okay, I was security in Tiffany's. But those rocks, those diamonds, most of them come from Africa. Okay, so you think, and Africa says, well, these diamonds don't even meet. They're not even really, expensive jewelry. But whites like them, so they will pay a lot of money for the diamonds. But you think since there were Tiffany's and stores like that where they pay high dollar for just a small diamond, you think, well, damn, if most of the diamonds come from Africa and whites are paying a lot of money for just a small diamond, then blacks be rich. No, they take the diamonds from Africa, and Europe pretty much gets all the money. Yep. Because I believe the Jewish community owns the Diamond District. Because Africa sure doesn't. And out of the 7 continents, Africa is the poorest, 60% of it being below the poverty level. So, with that being said, now a lot of these kids know 2 languages because, say for instance, Germany and French took over Ghana. Okay, so they carved the country up. Both the French and Germans own Ghana. So all the kids in kindergarten, you're going to learn French, you're going to learn German, and then you're going to learn, and then you're going to, it's up to you to be able to handle your language. Same thing with Kenya and the rest of those countries in Africa. Yep, Mali. If French and England took over, then you'll know English and you'll know French. And you're going to learn that in school, whether you want to or not. So you're going to learn that. You have to know that. Even when you're 4 or 5 years old, you'll be taught it like it's your primary language. So you know it once you come up. So does that mean that you're smart when you know it? No. Each language you learn that's outside of your language is pretty much proof of who conquered you. I repeat, every language you learn that's not your native language, like German and French, and you had to learn that since you were 5. Those pretty much are the white man's trophies. Every native tongue, every European tongue you had to learn is proof. So if you know German and French and then your language, that means that Germany and France conquered your country. So you know two languages plus your own, but you don't know it because you were smart. It was forced upon you because those 2 countries were your conquerors. Okay, yeah. So you were conquered. Every language that you knew, because it's not like you picked up a Rosetta Stone book and you just got it in 10 minutes. So trying to prove that you're smarter than other Americans, because we're only conquered by one group, so we just know English, and English is the language that pretty much dominates the world because, England pretty much runs the world, even America. So we only had to learn one. You had to learn a number of them because you were conquered by a number of countries in the same continent, still in Europe. England is in Europe, and in French and all that. But France and all that. But yeah, but it just boggles my mind, man, how they come over here, and it's like I was watching Boardwalk Empire on HBO. And it was like Chalky White. In the 4th season, it was Chalky White versus this quote unquote doctor from the in the 4th season from some island, and he wanted to show that he was so much smarter than Chalky White because he is from the Caribbean and all this and all that. The same thing that goes on today. I'm like, if you Jamaican dudes are so smart, you Trinidad dudes are so much smarter than Black Americans, you African guys are so much smarter than Black Americans, then what is your solution for the white man? Don't try to prove you're smart against me. The white man is the one whooping your ass and my ass because he's conquered Africa, the whole continent, first through colonialism when he went there physically. And because I was thinking as a kid, oh yeah, the blacks who didn't get snatched from Africa, they were smarter. No, they all actually had it worse if we quote unquote came from Africa, which I'm starting not to believe. But yeah, so we had a better standard of living. They're trying to come over here now to get the standard of living that we have. So a lot of your quote unquote Africans are living worse than the blacks in America. So when they got done, dropping us off and enslaving us, say that they did bring us over the transatlantic slave trade and all that bullshit. In addition, the ones that stayed, because they took millions supposedly, the ones that stayed were enslaved as well and colonized as well. And Germany, England, France, the Dutch, all those countries over there came over and conquered Africa, took everything physically, and so they conquered through colonialism, and for about 200 or 300 years. Then when they took it from the 1600 or from the 1500s to the 1800s, and then when they took everything and they had everything, they went back to their homeland, and now they can control Africa through imperialism. So first they conquered physically through colonialism, which means you just kill and stomp everybody out and take it physically. Then you take it back home, and now I can control you through imperialism, which means I can control you without even physically being there because I have so much of your resources. You're going to have to do what I say because you're pretty much without anything. And just to get some relief, you're going to have to listen to me so I can give you handouts. I can give you little pieces of what I took back, just enough so you can survive and suffer. I mean, they've really got them and all of us, but especially them in a fucked up situation because the IMF World Bank rules Africa. So no matter how many black leaders you see in power, they can't do. All of them are controlled in one way or another by Europe, either through tariffs or they're consistently taking their diamonds and taking all their resources. Think of this: Africa is one of the richest continents. I'm sorry, in the world, and one of the, and in minerals. And when it comes to actual payola, they're the poorest continent in the world. You got all the resources in the world, but you're still the poorest continent in the world. That means you're just being raped. So you're not too smart, are you? So please don't come over here and act like you're smarter than me when you don't have an answer for the primary culprit who has put his foot up your ass. Same thing for the islanders who know 2 or 3 languages. The people from Jamaica and Trinidad and all those other islands. Yeah, same thing happened to you. You know 2 or 3 islands because, again, Europe took over the islands as well. Okay. And if you meet island people or you meet African blacks or islander blacks, they worse than the Uncle Toms and these frats in our country. They're really off the rip. I thought frat guys were the worst. Jesus Christ, you listen to them. There's really some Uncle Tom stuff. And Africa is one of the biggest suppliers in skin bleaching cream. So their women use the skin bleaching cream even more than our women. Because my grandparents used to use the skin bleaching cream back in the 30s during that Jim Crow when they were in Georgia, and it was brutal for them. The blacks in Africa still use the skin bleaching cream, and so do the one primarily women, and so do the ones in the islands as well. Okay, so they're more brainwashed than the black Americans that are already here. So don't come to me with that bullshit talking about. This one lady was talking about that was on this forum that I was posted a comment on. Black African men are better than black American men. No, the fuck they ain't. And they ain't all smart either. Speaking English with that lazy African tongue. That's a lazy tongue. Speak the English with a tongue that's at least embraces the words. Like I get so tired of hearing them on the phone when I'm trying to set up accounts, at my job, and I can barely understand what they're saying, and they're shouting, acting like I can't hear. And it's not that I can't hear. I can't I can't understand what you're saying because you won't enunciate, because you won't use a clear enough tongue. I ain't saying you have to change your voice and everything like that, but beach nigga, beach nigga, I'm for the Africa. Come on, man, enunciate, bro. You on that bullshit. But yeah, I wanted, because some of those, the ones that are from blacks, the black males who are from the islands like Jamaica and Trinidad, and the ones from the continent of Africa, are majorly the ones over here talking shit about black American men who have been in America for many generations, and they're talking about how we talk against these black females. So they don't understand what the fuck's going on. They haven't been here long enough to understand what the fuck's going on. And they always have a comment. Along with the Mexican men and the Puerto Rican men who don't understand, because you're still able to put your foot up your woman's ass for right now, because feminism hasn't come to you yet. But it will. It has to a brief degree, because I do see Hispanics with earrings in both ears too. But it will come to you full force. Trust. We were just first because we stood out in the 60s. Our forefathers stood out in the 60s for leading a revolution. But you will be hit with it too. Trust that shit. You can talk about black this and black that right now, but you're next. Because they ain't going to stop until it's all one way. Believe that shit. But I wanted to make this video, man, because I'm so sick and tired of hearing these tired-ass brothers from these other... And I'm not saying we don't got some weak-ass black American brothers here. I thought the frat dudes were the worst. With some of these so-called blacks from these other places, man, these from from the Jamaica and the Trinidad and the islands and all that, and then from the continent of Africa. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them brothers are on a level, and to you, I'm not talking about. The ones who understand our struggle worldwide, I'm not talking to you. Because it's blacks from Africa. They showed this video about the Chinese throwing these African brothers out like a fifth-story window and threw them on top of the hood of a car. They talking about Chinese not having enough space or room, and they're about to infiltrate Africa. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to hear all that African nonsense by black males who are raised in America, man. Fuck all that. We got our own problems right here in America. You talking about unite with people who don't even like us, who don't even respect us. You know what I'm saying? We need to unite with each other if that's something you're going to do seriously. But fuck all that bullshit about unite with Africa and unite with the West Indians and the Jamaicans abroad. And they don't even, most of them that I've met, the ones who are lucky enough to make it over here, don't even respect black Americans at all. So fuck that shit. Like I told that one girl in that one forum, I said, fuck Africa. I've been over there. I've been through the Suez Canal when I was in the Navy. Hot as fuck. And I've met a lot of Africans. There's very few that I respect because they talk so much Uncle Tom rhetoric and just straight up bullshit that they don't understand. How you gonna say blacks over here deserve a bullet? Now, if I say the same shit about Africa, and them shooting the kids in the school, and you got the kids waging the wars against each other. Yeah, they got Bloods and Crips waging wars against each other. Now, I'm not saying this is as bad as Africa yet, but they do shit in stages, man. They can't have shit as bad in one place as they have it in another. They know you'll unite. But if the same shit is happening to a similar degree, then you should have sense enough to try to unite, instead of just talking shit about you African and we African Americans. You automatically think you're smarter, or you're from the West Indies, but you think you're smarter than the average black American. Most of you aren't, and most of you don't have the education I have. Okay, how about that shit? And your degree from over there don't mean shit over here. Yep. And most of you I can technically teach with my degree. Yep. So show some respect, man, on this bitch acting like you know what's going on. No, you don't. Most of you have no clue when it comes to black politics between black American men and black American women. I just want to get that off my chest, man. I want to make that for a while. But make sure to like and subscribe. And I know this shit probably got to somebody for real. But you know what? If it did, I'm glad. Yeah.